What's up, guys? So this is gonna be my fight review for the Bernard Hopkins versus Sergey Kovalev fight, and what turned out to be a great fight. I loved it. I thought it was great. It showed a lot from both fighters, especially Bernard Hopkins, what he has at this point, and the type of fighter that Kovalev is. Now, it was a great fight, just like I expected it. Both fighters did not disappoint me. A few things before I start. Bernard Hopkins did not manage to make history again by becoming champion and becoming the oldest man to win another championship belt, but he did manage to get Kovalev his best fight by far, even though it may not seem like it. If it wasn't an easy fight for Kovalev, he would have knocked him out. Now, Kovalev did manage to make an impressive performance by knocking down and tagging Bernard Hopkins and ultimately getting the decision to give him the win, and now he holds the IBF, WBA, and WBO belts in the light heavyweight division, which is great. First off, congratulations to Bernard Hopkins for having a great fight and a great effort to beat a prime great champion in Kovalev, being the spectacular knockout artist that he is, and giving him, making him work for it all night. All I can say is wow, because I was amazed. Even though he did lose, he did great. And props to Kovalev for taking on a great and a legend in generalship alone, a defensively sound fighter like Bernard Hopkins, in order to become the unified champion. Now, from the first round, both came out to show them that they were going to be at a decent pace. Both of them didn't come out with a ridiculous game plan. Kovalev managed to implement his throughout the whole match, and Bernard Hopkins was not able to get off and start his. Now, from the first round went on, Kovalev picked his punches very carefully and started to make Bernard Hopkins move towards the ropes. When he put him on the ropes, Bernard Hopkins tried to maneuver out of there and use a jab and a 1-2 combination, and that led him to getting knocked down after he threw a punch, and then Kovalev timed him and hit him with the it looked like kind of like an over the right hand punch, or kind of like a right hook kind of over the top, and knocked him down within the first round. And of course the whole crowd got crazy, and it looked like I didn't think he was gonna. I didn't think that was a knockout, but I knew oh, okay, he got him good, but let's see how good. And I thought it was a perfect punch by Kovalev. It happened really fast. That's what impressed me, when he managed to capture it in the moment. Now, Bernard Hopkins did manage to recover very good and get back up, and he got into the rest of the round, and in a way kind of made you forget that it happened, but nonetheless, Kovalev did manage to get the knockdown in the first round, so that made it a 10-8, basically giving him 2 rounds in 1. Now, throughout the fight, Kovalev maintained a great pace, and he could have went all out, but he didn't. He had a good game plan, which was to make things on his terms. He picked his punches carefully and kept throwing stiff jabs to the body, which is great because I think he's one of the best jabs, especially to the body. If you haven't noticed his body work game, it's crazy. Now, that also helped him because if it would help them 2 ways. One, it would help them wear down Bernard Hopkins, and also help him with the scorecards. A lot of people discredit body punching, let alone jabs, and especially to the body. But when they're good, strong jabs like that, and he's landing them clean, that helps you out, especially in the long run. Now, he didn't go crazy throwing wild punches and going for the KO early, because he knew that will leave him open to counter punches by Bernard Hopkins, which at times it looked like Kovalev did get a little bit anxious and a little bit over not overwhelmed, but he wanted to get things done, and it did leave him to get counter punch a couple times. Bernard Hopkins did manage to get a couple good left hooks. I've seen him get a good shoulder roll punch on him, and Bernard Hopkins did manage to hit him a few times and sting Kovalev, but not necessarily wobble him or hurt him like that. He did manage to punch him a couple times and move him a bit, but nothing too serious. Now, he hit him more than he hurt him. Like I said, I even saw him do a shoulder, a Floyd Mayweather shoulder roll, when Kovalev was coming in with the 1-2, and then he kind of made him miss, and then he hit him right back with a straight right hand. like Mayweather likes to do. But B-Hop wasn't able to hit Kovalev as hard or as good as he felt like he needed to, and part of it because he couldn't he couldn't hurt him. He couldn't get his respect. I feel, and Kovalev kept a good like forward, like unreadable pace to his fight game plan that night, and that made it hard for Bernard Hopkins to execute his and to get his off the ground. Bernard Hopkins kind of relies on what you do in a way, and then so he can kind of react and correct your mistakes and make you pay. But Kovalev maintained a good offensive maneuver, so Bernard Hopkins wouldn't be able to do that. He kept him like around the ropes a lot, and Bernard Hopkins was able to maneuver out of there, but it still was getting tagged, especially to the body, and he was getting hit over the top with some right hands at times. Now, Kovalev was able to hit Bernard Hopkins very well. In fact, he hit him a total of 166 times out of 585 punches, which is landed at a 28% 28% punches. Bernard Hopkins was able to connect with Kovalev with 65 punches out of 195 thrown, which leaves him at a 33 percentage. And as for power punches, Kovalev landed more power punches than B-Hop threw. Bernard Hopkins threw 111 and landed 40. That's 36% of his punches. And Kovalev threw 341 and landed 121 power punches, leaving him at 35%. So Kovalev landed 121 and Bernard Hopkins threw 111 and only landed 40. So Kovalev definitely by far landed the more power punches. Not all of them were like very perfectly dead on, but nonetheless they were able to he was able to connect with him, and that bit hurt Bernard Hopkins a couple times in the match. And even at one point, it was starting in the middle of the ring. He threw like a jab, and he then came up with like over the top right hook and hit him flush at Bernard Hopkins, and it looked like he was going down. But then Bernard Hopkins, it looks like he still got some pretty strong legs and a great job, because as like he was falling, he like recuperated, catch himself, and went back, and got pushed against the ropes. But that punch was crazy. I thought that was gonna be it, because that punch was dead on perfect, and he took it great. Now, by far my favorite round was, and I think the best round also in my opinion, was the 12th round, because that was a high pace pressure round for both fighters. One, Bernard Hopkins lost, in my opinion. I gave Kovalev every round, maybe except for 1 and 2. If I was being generous, I could give to Bernard Hopkins, but essentially Kovalev won every single round, and that would ultimately leave him at 120 points. Since B-Hop only basically he didn't win any round officially, that would leave him at like what, 107 and so, because of the knockdown in the first round. The only way he could win, especially going into the final round, would be by a stoppage or a knockout. So the pressure was high for him, and Kovalev pressure high for him also, because he wants to get the knockout victory and be the first person to take out Bernard Hopkins. So both of them were kind of in the same mindset of like, oh, I need to get this knockout, one more so than the other. So Kovalev wanted to go for the knockout, and he started throwing some crazy punches, and it looked like it was hurting Bernard Hopkins, and then Bernard Hopkins hit him with like, I believe it looked like a stiff jab kind of hook punch, and it hit Kovalev on the neck area. It officially seemed like it hurt him and wobbled him, but later on after the fight in an interview, he went on to say that it wasn't the fact that he got hurt that made him look like it did damage. It was the fact that he was off balance and they were kind of tangled, which in a way it does. It did look like that way, but the punch also connected. So I gotta give some credit to Bernard Hopkins for landing that punch. But I believe that it looked like Kovalev was just a bit, tiny bit stung. Maybe not a lot, but it was more like a surprise like hit. He later went on to claim that Bernard Hopkins was like a very like hard opponent, because he was tricky and defensively sound and hard to hit. But and the other way around, Bernard Hopkins was able to hit him. Kovalev was able to hit him a lot harder due to his power, and I'm surprised of how good Bernard Hopkins was able to take all those punches. Because getting hit from this dude, a prime champion, that's essentially just a not like with a crazy amount of knockout power, and Bernard Hopkins being a 49 years old taking punches like these, yo, anybody would have been out. But Bernard Hopkins somehow, like his name claims, he's an alien. He's able to take these punches, and I was just surprised because I essentially thought, all right, as the further the match goes, it was going to lean towards Bernard Hopkins' favor because I wasn't sure of Kovalev's stamina, and I wasn't sure how he would react to someone trying to pick him off. And I thought the earlier the match, the better it would have been for Kovalev, and I was kind of right in that part. But Kovalev did manage to get the decision. I did pick him to win though, but I wasn't necessarily sure how. I thought if he was gonna win, it would have been by like maybe like hey, TKO, and but nonetheless, I didn't get that prediction right. But I did pick him to win. So looking at Bernard Hopkins, he he was able to finish the fight, but at like almost like at a cost because towards the end of the round, the Kovalev started going hammer on this dude and started throwing mad punches, mad power punches, and he was hitting him. He was hitting him flush, and he was hurting him. It looked like the ref was even gonna stop the fight, but Bernard Hopkins was able to like move, bob and weave some of the punches, parry them, but he was still getting hit a lot. And I thought he was gonna get like put down because Kovalev was hitting really good, connecting, and especially towards the last seconds, it looked like the ref was gonna stop it, but he didn't. And Bernard Hopkins was able to finish, and Kovalev essentially got the win. Now I give Bernard Hopkins huge props for taking on Kovalev and giving him his all. And maybe what impressed me the best was Bernard Hopkins' ability to take Kovalev's punches. I didn't think he was going to be able to take them this well. Even though Kovalev did make Bernard Hopkins look his age, I don't think it was that. I think it was the fact that Kovalev was just the better man that night. Kovalev is a good fighter, and he shouldn't get discredited just because of one thing, which is Bernard Hopkins' age. Bernard Hopkins did give it his all. He did know he was up against, and he trained very well. So I don't discredit him for his win, but I am cautious of the mindset that he was 49. But even so, that it's not like he was coming off like sketchy performances or weak performances or losses. He was coming off victories and title defenses against solid competition. So by far this was no like, oh well, he was already old and blah blah blah. No, like give props to the man when he defeats someone, especially at this level. And Kovalev did an amazing job in making Bernard Hopkins fight his fight, especially to make Bernard Hopkins a guy that's known for ring generalship. To do that, it takes some skill, it takes some pressure, and it takes some good game planning. It takes determination and the ability to focus and stay on game plan because it's very hard, especially for the type of fighter he is, that he likes to go in and crush his opponents and knock them down. To maintain this type of level of focus and basically just do what you're being told, as in like corner wise, dude is a smart fighter because a lot of guys would have got frustrated or they would have been like, oh man, I'm not really hurting this guy or I'm not getting the knockdowns that I want or whatever, and they will go all out and then they'll leave them open to mistakes, which was kind of what Bernard Hopkins was leaning for in the fight to happen. And to me, Bernard Hopkins proved that even at age 49, age is just a number because win or lose, he still won the heart of the fans and he won the respect of the fans. And the respect, he won the respect from a lot of us, and I think I think he's still capable of fighting. But without a doubt, Bernard Hopkins is a legend, especially after this performance. Even though he lost, I think he won a lot of our respect, especially mine, for even stepping into the fight in the first place. When he announced that he was going to take this fight, I was kind of surprised. I didn't think he was gonna rush in for it, but he did, and I give him a lot of respect because a lot of fighters are ducking each other, and for a man of his stature, of his age, of his legacy to do this, he didn't need to. He's already a legend in the sport himself. So I give him more props. He's definitely one of the best, I think, to do it. And it goes to show the type of fighter he is. He's already training actually. He's already back in the gym and like focusing and training already, which is crazy. He didn't look that damaged after the fight. He did look like he was tired, like not exhausted, but just a bit fatigued. Kovalev went on to say that he definitely thinks Bernard Hopkins can bounce back and win another title against Adonis Stevenson. He says that he thinks he could beat Adonis Stevenson. I think it's a good matchup, but I'd rather see Kovalev fight Stevenson to unify all the belts, all the four major belts, which would be the WBO, WBA, IBF, and WBC, and become the undisputed light heavyweight champion. But Adonis Stevenson has been ducking Kovalev, so it's hard to say what's going to happen. If Bernard Hopkins can fight Stevenson, you know what? Why not? It's a good opportunity for him. It'll still be a good match. I think Bernard Hopkins still has the potential to fight. He says that right now it's a 50-50 whether he will continue or retire. That has been like that since like he turned 40. But I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to retire, and I wouldn't hold him against him. And I also wouldn't mind him to see him fight again. I think he still has it. I think he can still compete. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. But I would prefer Kovalev to take on Adonis Stevenson, and I think that'll be a good matchup. I think that could be another super fight, especially towards later next year, probably maybe around June or something. I think that'd be good. So that's for now. That's all I got. Tell me what you guys thought of the fight. Did you watch it? Who did you think was gonna win? Were you surprised by anything? What surprised me was the knockdown in the first round. I was very surprised. I didn't think it was gonna happen that early. I was expecting a knockdown, but not like that. Not in the first round so early. So I thought it was a great fight, and I'll catch you guys later.